Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Q&A for the movie Wrinkles the Clown. And joining us today, we have Michael Beach Nichols, the director and cinematographer of this film. Hello, Michael.
Hello, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good, good. I mean, as well as can be during
As
this
well
time.
as
But
can be. First of all, I'm very happy that we can have your amazing film at our festival. So maybe the best place to start would be at the beginning. How did you sort of conceive of the idea of doing Wrinkles the Clown as a film?
so I live in New York City now, but I actually grew up in Southwest Florida, sort of in the same area that Wrinkles exists in. And so I'd heard about this. I had friends that sort of sent me these sort of bizarro news clips of this clown named Wrinkles, who parents were supposedly hiring down in Florida to scare their children, and I just thought it was absolutely insane. Um, and so that was sort of my first exposure to Wrinkles, was seeing those really creepy videos. And when I was able to make contact with him and sort of learn that he had this voicemail, and he'd accumulated at that time about 600,000 voicemails from people who had, left messages for him. That was when I really realized that there was a lot more to this story than was sort of on the surface. And we'd be able to listen to these voicemails and sort of see how people in real time were responding and reacting to this really creepy clown just based off a couple online videos.
So obviously, I mean, we can sort of assume that people watching this will have seen the film by then. So we can discuss the sort of even the twist that happens in the final act of the film. So speaking of Wrinkles the Clown and his identity, and this is maybe an interesting question to see how you managed to sort of find a way of communicating with him, and how much did you sort of collaborate on the structure of the film, shall we say?
Sure. So yeah, the film was a very robust collaboration with the artist behind Wrinkles the Clown, mainly because he was adamant about staying anonymous. He felt that the Wrinkles the Clown, sort of mythology, internet mythology, was much more powerful if there wasn't, a real person's face or a real person's name sort of behind the mask. So, of course, when we started making the film, that felt like the inevitable conclusion would be to sort of unmask Wrinkles, see who was wearing the mask and sort of learn about him in that sort of, illuminating way. But because he was opposed to that, structurally in the film, we had to sort of figure out a way to tell the story of Wrinkles without, sort of revealing his identity. And so the sort of most natural way that we sort of came about that, well, first I wanted to just sort of keep him in the costume and just sort of do interviews with Wrinkles, wearing the mask throughout the film. The person behind Wrinkles was like, it's too hot, I'm not going to wear the mask and the costume for the whole film. Why don't we get an actor to portray sort of the myth of what people think Wrinkles is? And what people think Wrinkles is a retiree in his 60s or 70s, living in a van in Southwest Florida. And all of these sort of details bubbled up from either news media interviews with Wrinkles, where he had sort of alluded to, sort of where he was from with his sort of bizarro Northeastern accent. And then also just some reporters just took a lot of information sort of out of thin air and just sort of came up with, that he was in his 60s, he was a retiree. And so what we wanted to do was place the audience really in sort of the internet mindset for the first 2/3 of the film, and really let the audience sort of believe what everyone online believed, which is that what you're seeing, this guy living in a van. And then once we decided to reveal that this wasn't, exactly the truth, that's when we sort of go into all those interviews with the artists behind Wrinkles, where we're not revealing anything personal about him, but we are revealing sort of the, you know, the instigating idea for why he created this character.
So yeah, at one point they even say that he's a Rhode Island transplant, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Obviously, you know, when making this film, you sort of your previous film, Welcome to Leith, is sort of your approach was basically like a verite, kind of just following things around, like a kind of a fly on the wall. Whereas this film, you borrow much more from the sort of horror film cinematic language. And also not just as a director, but also as a cinematographer of the film. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you developed this specific approach.
Yeah, so you know, when we were making this film, we really wanted to make sure it was sort of rooted in documentary, in terms of everything that we wanted to show in the film. In terms of the myth of Wrinkles, we wanted it to come from you know, people's reactions to him on the internet, whether that was a voicemail or an interview that we did. And so, you know, we would do these interviews with these kids, and I probably interviewed like 40 kids via Skype. And then the sort of weirdest or most interesting or just sort of most representative interviews with kids were ones that we tried to then take the next step and go visit them in their homes and do interviews with them there. And that's where we got a lot of the, you know, the sort of really creepy imagery from. I think the sort of most horror-like moment in the film is when Wrinkles is, you know, painting a wall in this really sort of creepy basement-looking type room with the blood of the children that he supposedly murdered. And that came right from one of our interview subjects, Rena, who said that in her Skype interview. And I was just like, this is so crazy that she just like came up with this idea that Wrinkles is murdering children and painting the walls of a room with their blood. And so hearing these stories and hearing these voicemails that kids were leaving, I think that, you know, there is certainly this creepy clown story element that's been in, you know, American culture since, you know, the 80s, really, when Stephen King's It came out. So kids, it really seems kids these days like associate clowns with horror. And I think that's sort of where the horror elements sort of came from. All of these kids had these sort of nightmarish ideas of clowns, and Wrinkles, you know, that mask is not really doing, you know, it's not doing any favors for Wrinkles in terms of being a happy, nice, approachable clown necessarily. It's pretty creepy looking. And so we just took our inspiration from these kids and from these interviews and voicemails. And I'm a big horror fan, so I was really excited to sort of, you know, be able to do things that were a little bit more genre based than I typically get to do with documentaries. And so, yeah, that was sort of how we sort of decided to take that approach.
Obviously, like, well, in the recent years, there's been a kind of like evil clown mania, especially in the US, what with the It remakes and such. So do you have any theories? What does this sort of thing tell us about America today? Why is this so huge just now?
I mean, it feels like it certainly comes, I mean, from our research and from talking to different, you know, sort of folklore experts, it certainly seems like the sort of creepy clown obsession comes in waves, where in the 80s, it seemed like all of these reports of clowns abducting children, just that had no sort of, no basis in fact. It was just these stories that sort of spread, these clowns in these like white vans, like kidnapping children. And so I think a lot of that had to do, in the 80s at least, with like the stranger danger, the satanic panic, and basically just like adults doing horrible things to children. And I think clowns, just because of, you know, they have access to kids. Clowns are invited into people's homes for birthday parties, and they entertain our children. And so sort of, you know, what what's more scary than, you know, an adult, a stranger, an anonymous stranger with makeup on, who has access to your children, who has bad intentions. So I think that there's a lot of really rich, there's a lot of richness to sort of the duality of the clown. Like, what is this person's intentions? Is this person going to harm me? So I think a lot of like even happy clowns can be kind of creepy. A lot of children are scared of clowns and think that they're creepy. I have a lot of friends, a lot of people that work on the film just think clowns in general are just really creepy. So it's not much of a leap. And I think in 2016, this whole thing really sort of started to pop off with, you know, the news that there was going to be an It remake, which certainly fed back into that whole sort of hysteria. And then, yeah, with what happened in the sort of late summer, fall, with all the clown sightings in all 50 states, it was just sort of mind-boggling. But it just felt like it was this sort of collective copycat hysteria that now in the age of the internet can just spread really rapidly and sort of get out of control really fast. And so it was really sort of hard to figure out how that started in 2016. And in the film, I mean, Wrinkles sort of wonders out loud if he's a part of that, because his videos sort of first came out in 2014 and really took off in 2015. So there's an argument that could be made, you know, that he started this sort of clown craze of 2016 with his viral videos.
So as you mentioned, you basically, the film covers a period of time between about 2014 and 2019 or so. So I was wondering, are you up to date on what's happening with Wrinkles now? Is he still posting the videos? Has he like advanced his concept in some way?
Yeah, so yeah, I do talk to Wrinkles every so often. Since the film has come out, you know, there's been a sort of resurgence in phone calls. So he's getting, you know, he's getting more calls than ever with people that have seen the film and that want to talk to him about it and leave messages about it. But yeah, he's certainly in sort of a period of flux right now as far as what the next stage is for him. I don't think he's made any more videos since the film has come out. He was sort of transitioning out of that phase and trying to sort of look into more sort of symbolic imagery that wasn't sort of video based, that was more like, you know, just the mask based or like graffiti, that kind of thing. So yeah, so I think right now, when we made the film, he thought that would sort of be the end, that all of the secrets would be revealed except for his identity. But he thought that people might not be as interested in the character once they sort of knew that it was more of a social experiment, as he put it. But we found sort of the opposite. We found that people are sort of more interested than ever in Wrinkles. And I really think, you know, as we come upon Halloween this year, I have a feeling that he's going to be getting a lot more phone calls, and perhaps there'll be sort of a renewed interest in creepy clowns again. But yeah, it's been fun to sort of see that people are still fascinated by him. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that he's still anonymous. People still don't know who he is, so they can sort of project their own sort of ideas of what he looks like or what he's motivated by.
So for those who don't know, your previous film that I mentioned, Welcome to Leith, deals with white supremacists attempting to take over a small town in North Dakota. And this film is about evil clowns. So obviously you're sort of interested in some very dark and transgressive ideas for your film. So I was wondering, obviously, you know, this situation is making such things difficult, but do you have anything in mind for your next project? Will it be along the lines of either of these two films?
Yeah, it's funny. I tried to always sort of make the connection between Leith and Wrinkles as sort of, you know, the idea of fear and sort of how either a community or how people online sort of, you know, respond to fear. And I think that I always thought Wrinkles was very different than Leith, but there are certainly similarities in terms of that aspect. but yeah, with everything now how it is, it's been especially in the U.S. how bad it is. We're not really allowed anywhere as far as travel internationally. I did have a project that I was working on that completely fell through because of COVID, just in terms of financing. So I'm sort of actively on the search for a new project. But yeah, you absolutely are right. I'm very fascinated by the sort of darker subject material.
All right. I mean, obviously, we can't take any questions from the audience, but maybe if you have anything else to add that you think should be mentioned in terms of Wrinkles.
Yeah, I mean, Wrinkles' phone number is still active, so he would love to hear from people, especially internationally. He would love to get phone calls and messages. So you can call Wrinkles. So it's +1 407 734 0254. I think that's reverse, but yeah, you can call Wrinkles and leave a voicemail, and he loves it, and he might do something with these voicemails. So it's kind of fun to see the project as it evolves. And I'm so appreciative to you for showing the film at your festival. It means a lot.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Well, Michael, thanks for this conversation, and thanks for your film once again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hope to see you someday, maybe in person at like one of our feature editions or something.
I'd love that. Thank you.